Thank you. Good evening, good evening. Okay. We're trying to get some paperwork done.
The window's don't open there.
The air conditioner, can we put the air conditioner up, maybe?
Okay, do we have everything? Everybody signed in?
I'm gonna try to put the air conditioner up.
Everybody? Okay. Yes, sir. Push, so you get a green light. There you go.
Tom, did everybody sign in?
Yes, we have.
All good?
One more.
One more.
They're,
There's
full names, guys? For the-
Sutton?
We have
Max Ozerkis?
I got Max.
Joseph Oresco?
How do you spell Horosco?
Horsco?
Who's next to you? Bonnie Von Olson. Bonnie, spell your last name.
Oh, thank you. Yes, sir. What can we help you with?
All right, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, town council, staff, my name is Lino Sharetta, partner with the law firm Blakely Platt and Schmidt in New York. I'm here on behalf of Data Bank this evening. I know we introduced, but now that I'll just have the whole team introduce each other. The stenographer could take it, starting to my left.
Highland Associates?
Dana Smith, Data Bank. Tony Corey, Vice Construction, Data Bank.
Dan Frisco, Horn.
Travis Kimley Horn? Max Ozerkis, Kimley Horn?
Joseph Horesco, Centec.
Bonnie Von Olson, Kimley Horn.
So, thank you, Roland. So, Mr. Chairman, we were last here about of 2025. We had a meeting with you all, and just to give you a little bit of background, because it's been since we've been here, this is LGA 4, Phase the Data Bank Project. As you know, board about 2 years ago, about 23, approved Phase 1, and tonight I'm going to call it Phase 1, Phase 2, even though for our purposes it's LGA 4, but for ease of speaking this evening, we'll refer to Phase 1 as the old project, Phase 2 is the new. So, just to give you some background, Phase 1 was approved back a few years ago, and that facility consisted of a data center of 145 square feet. That back then was deemed a Type 1 action. We had a lot of time before your board on that site plan. We also at the time contemplated this project, but again, it was a definite that we were going forward, but it was contemplated back then. And back then, when this project, Phase 1, was we issued a neg deck, and it was a detailed neg, which was reconfirmed back in 2020 when Phase 1 was approved. And that was for 145 like a foot data facility. Phase 1, you probably know, is built. I guess on the CO, it's there. It's been, it's not operational, but there are lights there, there are generators, electricity's in, so it's pretty much complete. Again, we have a couple for the CO, but it's been established, it's there. This project, Phase 2, okay, originally when we were to the board back in 22, 21, Phase 2 was supposed to be, if you recall, a mirror image of Phase 1. So we were to take the two data centers, you put them together, exactly the same. So that original phase we had contemplated to be 146,480 square feet in size. And at the time we were discussing that size with you, but there were comments from the board, from the public, from the consultant. about the size of that facility. And back in October, we said, okay, you know what, we're going to go back some homework, which we did, and we came back with a substantially reduced data center. So the new proposed data center that we're now phase two is not 146,400 square feet, but now it's 77,800 square feet. So significantly smaller than what was calculated back then. The other thing that phase two contemplated was a substation. Back then, at the 146,000 square foot data center, we had to put in a new substation. That substation was another 72,000 and change of square feet. That substation, as part of this project, has been removed, so we're not doing the substation, because the new substation that's proposed at the current square footage, we have enough electricity to power that facility with the current electrical grid right now that we have. So that takes care of the first part of phase two, what you'll see tonight. I'm gonna turn it over to our staff a little bit. They can go through the site plan. I know we received a bunch of comments from the agency, and I'll talk the county GML. So the county GML, when we got this for phase two, when it was at the original size, there was a disapproval from the county, right? So we saw that. Again, now we got a new GML from the county. Now they don't disapprove it. Now they have modifications. It looks like they seem to be satisfied with the size of the new facility. So now, that being said, let's talk about a couple of things that we've heard at the last meeting that I've heard leading up to tonight. So we've heard about the zoning. I've seen letters, I've seen comments about the zoning. This is an LIO zone. About 2 building inspectors ago, and following up to today, it was determined that the LI zone allowed data centers. Now, back in 2011, I guess when Bloomberg was done, and now phase one of this project was done, your building department determined that this was a business use in the LIO zone, because back then, data centers weren't a thing, apparently, back in 2011, during that time. So since then, they are a thing. And in Orangetown, we have a few of those data centers around. Okay, we have JP Morgan Chase, we got Bloomberg, we have data bank, phase one. So again, they are here, right? So, and again, with respect to the LIO zone, it's being deemed that they are permitted in the zone. You have a structure that's about 145,000 square feet next door, that proves it, plus Bloomberg. So any argument that I hear from anyone else saying, well, it's not permitted in the zoning, that ship has long been sailed, gone, okay? Because you have the structures already there, our rights been vested as to that point, so the zoning does allow it. The other issue was, in terms of SECRA, I've also heard a lot about, well, you gotta POSDEC this action, you have to do a full EIS. Well, this board didn't mandate and compel an EIS back when we did phase one at a much larger facility at 145,000 square feet. And if you recall, we spent a lot of time, we had to get variances for the loading berths, the enclosures, and we have to get the same exact variances for this facility, even though it's smaller, same ones. We have to go back to the zoning board for that. So again, we went through variances, we went through ACABOR, all under a neg deck. And again, I have the neg deck, you guys have seen it. We went through that painstakingly back a few years ago when the first project was approved. So again, even though this is a type 1 action, given the fact that it's a much smaller facility than what was contemplated, I find it hard-pressed for the board to even POSDEC, even considering it, given the fact of what you did back 3 years ago when you neg-decked this project. The other thing I want to state, we did get other comments from the professionals. I know we'll go through them tonight, but I just wanted to give you a high-level overview of just those 2 points. I'm going to turn it over now to Dan. He's going to go over the site plan, just to give you a brief overview, because again, you haven't seen the new plan since we submitted back in October, which was the original phase 2 size. So I'll let Dan go through some of the high level of the site plan, and also address some of the that we had when we were here back in October, and also at PRC a couple. So Dan?
Great, thank you, Lino. Could we please flip to overall site plan sheet, a few sheets?
Could you talk in the better?
Yes.
One?
Could we actually like to do the overall site plan?
Page 9.
Let the site plan comparison.
No. Same here, just go to page 9.
Keep going, yep.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, that's one,
page nine.
perfect, thank you. So as Lino mentioned, the development is now roughly half the size as the previously proposed building and development footprint. So what that's allowed us to do is to re-lay out the site and minimize our limits of disturbance, minimize our earthwork and grading footprint. So we've been able to obviously move the building northward. It's more than 300 feet away from the nearest neighboring property now. And we've been able to pull the infiltration system from the east side, under the wetlands and the wetland buffer. It will disturbance on the north of the site, because with a smaller footprint, obviously demand is less. So a 30 megawatt facility usually becomes a 10 megawatt facility. That capacity is available. Existing substation on the property. We're no longer proposing a new substation. There's no new disturbance to the north half of the property. The generator yard is farther away than it was previously, and it's going to be screened in. In a minute, I talk about sound modeling and mitigation. And our stormwater management facility is proposed to be an infiltration basin, meaning the stormwater will run on the development away from Lake Tapan towards the infiltration basin and is intended to percolate down as it would naturally. So the soils will over the stormwater runoff, and the basin will be able to the water quantity and water quality, which is required by state stormwater design manual. All of this gets reviewed by the town's DEME, and we're going to work to comply in any design criteria satisfactory to the township. The site still needs a couple of variances. We do need to seek a variance for bays. We're proposing 2 loading bays as on phase 1. We're not enclosed bays, similar to the variance on phase 1. And of course, we're proposing the minimum number of parking spots. There's far less parking required to meet that as a facility, so we'd be seeking a variance for much less parking, less coverage, less disturbance to green areas, and just a more green and sustainable site. Overall, the development, including phase 1, totals a FAR of 0.18. The maximum FAR in this zone is 0.4, so roughly half what the FAR allows for this zone. And then I would just like to show the landscaping plan for a second.
Page 41. If you top, it lets you go straight to 41. No.
The center.
Okay, so south side of the site, still maintaining and have always maintained the 100 feet of vegetated wooded area between property boundary and the building setback line, which is in the dashed line there. And then from the dashed line in, we are now proposing a small berm, a 5-foot berm, which will also be vegetated with evergreens and other naturally occurring landscaping to provide additional screening. Beyond the berm and the screening and the natural vegetation, again, the equipment yard is going to be screened in beyond that. So layers of screening naturally and man-made between the south property and the proposed equipment yard. The infiltration basin is shown in a minute. I'll turn it over to our environment expert to talk about the wetlands. We're removing any of the disturbance from the east water course, wetland buffer. So therefore, we're no disturbing the water course. We're not going to do a water course diversion permit. The existing settling basin, which was pre-existing before phase 1, will be maintained, and we're not going to be pursuing a water course diversion permit. I think with that, I'll turn it over to you, Max, to talk about wetlands and wetland mitigation intention. Turn it over to you, sir.
Pass on the mic.
Sure thing.
Can you open up the other document? The wetland presentation one, the wetland presentation. Number 8. Yep. Thank you.
The first page is good. No, with the table. Thank you. Thank you, Dan. I am Max Ozerkis, Certified Professional Wetland Scientist with Kimley Horn. I performed the wetland delineation on this site and have been working with the regulatory agencies having jurisdiction over the wetlands on this project. So, as Dan had mentioned, we were able to avoid wetland 1. You can see on this map here to the right, wetland 1 is the wetland to the east. That and its regulated 100-foot adjacent area are being completely avoided. We did perform an alternatives analysis and The project just does not work with avoidance of wetland 2. So there will be unavoidable impacts to wetland 2. What we have here is a functions and values assessment using the Army Corps of Engineers methodology. This is just to show what sort of functions and values this wetland provides to the overall ecosystem. We'll try and run through this rather briefly. These are established criteria on the left here that the wetland would be evaluated for. So we have groundwater recharge and discharge. This is not applicable for this wetland. It's a shallow wetland. It is fed by surface water only. It does not have a connection to groundwater as, say, a larger swamp or even the wetland to the right does. Some wetlands provide flood storage. This wetland, again, small. It is not in a 100-year plain. It is unlikely to have a material impact on flood pattern. Some wetlands only provide fish and shellfish habitat. This, again, too small, isolated, no permanent surface water, does not provide that. Some wetlands can retain sediments to help purify water, capturing pollutants from runoff. There's a low potential for that here. There's not a large drainage area to this wetland, so there's really not a lot of sediment going to this wetland like you might see in a farming community where there's a lot more exposed soil. It does have some vegetation that could capture pollutants for the water that is coming to this wetland. We categorize that as low. Similar status with the nutrient removal. We don't expect that this is an area that would experience high nutrient runoff. Production and food web support. This wetland is not particularly diverse. It produces some basic plant material that supports insects and low-level food chain species, but invasive plant species in the wetland will reduce the usefulness of what is being produced for native wildlife. Doesn't have things like berries, flowers with nectar, other things that would be primarily useful to wildlife. Sediment or shoreline stabilization, again, not along a stream bank for wetland 2, which we're talking about here, so does not provide that function or value. Wildlife habitat goes along with food web support, just low value there given the invasive species that are present and the small size. The next few, recreation, educational, uniqueness, visual quality, those would be for wetlands that are, again, unique or provide something that would be worthy of study. And this wetland that really formed as a result of previous site disturbance and is collecting stormwater that's hanging out there, it's not providing any of those services. The last one on this list is threatened and endangered species, and again, we don't anticipate, and none of our correspondence with wildlife agencies have shown that there are threatened and endangered species that are using this wetland. So with that in mind, we have attempted to mitigate for the loss of this wetland given, it provides some value, but again, low value here. I guess I would draw your attention to wetland 1 here, the wetland to the east here. You can see there's a stream running through it. It's got a forest canopy, but a relatively sparse understory. So if you could flip to the next page, we'll discuss some of the mitigation measures that we are considering here. So the blue outline with the spots there is the wetland boundary, and then we have the adjacent area around it. There's a few options. These are being discussed with the State Department of Environmental Conservation. They will not formally review the application that we have submitted until the secret is complete. So it has been decided here yet, but these are the options that we've developed. They are green there, option, I can't see what number that is, but it's fine. In green hatch, that would be the old basin that's there. We would excavate that out to the elevation of groundwater and create a wetland there so that the soil surface was close to the groundwater level there, so you would have conditions that would be planted with vegetation and would be to the existing wetland there, so that would creation. The purple shading is a enhancement of the adjacent area. Their enhancement either of the area and or the wetland itself. You saw in that last picture that it's sparsely vegetated. We would plant some additional species there to give, again, more value, a variety of habitats. Things that we could enhance the stream itself, providing logs that insects could live in or otherwise sort of produce some diversity of habitat in that stream. Be some wetland creation off to there in those shallow areas. All of these are larger, as a equal or larger than the area of the wetland to be impacted. Some combination of these will be in connection with the state DEC, and that those measures make up for of wetland 2.
Good evening. Joe Herr from the SIC. I am the acoustics consultant. We submitted a report. I just walk through it quickly. Process basically is to start with the noise. We looked up the Town of Orange Code, NJDEP, the zoning code, and New York State DEC guides. The Township of Orange and NJ both have limits. That is a set limit of 50 dBA for nighttime operations. The NJDP also has a daytime limit of 65. They also exempt generators when they're operating continuously. So that's sort of the background where we start. We've conducted an acoustic model that took the sources that are planned for the site, which includes chillers, battery exhaust fans, and the generators, applied them into an acoustic model. And we've presented the sets that we use for that, and it's are both well below all of the relevant noise codes, but also have limited impact to the Phase 1 equipment. So what we're talking about is increases above the Phase 1 sounds by 1 decibel at most locations, and no more than 3 decibels anywhere. Acoustically speaking, 1 decibel, you can't hear the difference, and 3 decibels is about the minimum that somebody could actually determine. But again, we are looking at sound levels that are compliance with the 50 dBA limits with just the cooling equipment, and that would be based on an absolute worst case, all equipment running at their absolute maximum levels, which would be not typical of most of the time, since the equipment would turn down for lower temperatures and lower build-out phases. To speak to that, I would say that the chillers specifically, the data is provide an ambient temperature of 4 degrees. And so that's the number that is assuming that these chillers are running on basically the hottest day of the year. So all are compared to that. Similarly, with the generators, what we've done is we've assumed that one of those generators is being tested. At the same time, all of that cooling equipment is running at its maximum, and that there's a load cell next to that generator to get essentially the worst case potential for emergency generators being exercised once a month as they normally would be. And again, those levels are below 65 dBA at all locations except for that baseball field nearest, which is actually just slightly over at 67. But that was also the case with Phase 1, LGA 3, as we called it. In addition, we've since done some ambient measurements. The ambient conditions out at the site ranged from about 40 dBA to about, there were some sound levels that were over 70, but typically in that mid-50 range, mid-40s to mid-50 range at most locations. So the sound levels from the equipment at their maximum are on average going to be about what the current sound levels out there at the site are. So there's really a limited impact in terms of the day-to-day operations compared to the existing ambience now. The other thing to note is that I think we would say that we took a very conservative approach to this. In addition to the maximum sound levels at the 104-degree ambient temperature, we've only included a barrier for this new phase along the south edge of the building. There will be screening. The screening can provide additional attenuation. We just didn't include it because we're trying to present unbiased and most conservative numbers. That might reduce the steel levels by another 1 to 3 decibels. In addition, we did not for any vegetation, the existing area of existing vegetation that will remain, according to even the New York CEC document, that for another 3 decibel reduction. I've since added that back to the model, and I find that it's about a 4 decibel reduction. So you could take our numbers that are around 45 and reduce by another 4 decibels. So we're really a very good place relative to codes and relative to the existing ambient. I think the high-level summary. You can turn it over to whoever. Next.
Joe, just real quick for clarification, when you say worst case scenario, talking all chillers running on the operational at
Correct.
once. And just for the record, there's redundancy built into that, so 4 of those actually wouldn't be running. They're for redundancy purposes in case there's a failure. We'll never get into that scenario where all those chillers are running or even all the generators are running.
Is there a scenario where they're gonna be running on both phase 1 and phase 2 at the same time?
Well, they have different equipment, and that does include both Phase 1 equipment and Phase 2 equipment. So Phase 1 equipment is a little bit different from the Phase 2 equipment, but we've already presented the Phase 1. We've included it in our model. So if you read the report, there's a Phase 1 only, a Phase 2 only, and then a Phase 1 and 2 combined.
And same scenario from, again, mechanical and electrical equipment, there's redundancy built into that. The model is everything running at once, which will never happen.
Literally every piece of equipment that's shown is on in those scenarios.
Yeah, what's the date on that report? Is that the original or is this a revised one?
So what I'm speaking to mostly right now was the dated, oh, shoot. I messed up because I just printed it out today, so it shows today's date. But it was this year, January
29th. January 29th.
29th, thank you. Yeah.
So this is a revised one from the original one?
Well, there was a Phase 1 report that was issued back in 2022 or 2023, and then there was another one for this phase that was last year. This one is
the
the
updated one,
updated
okay.
one with those conclusions, correct?
Okay, thank you.
And just another, because I know this came up last time about, with respect to the data center. So it's a system, and I'm going to have Tony what it means in terms of the water.
Yeah, so, I know there's a lot of misconceptions on use of water. You see some of the sign, a drain the lake. I just want to point out that it is, air-cooled chillers are on the roof. It is a closed loop, so once you go and you fill that system once, you're done. The actual consumption of water for that facility is less, it was a commercial building of the same square footage.
What equipment is in the equipment? Are there generators?
There's generators and there's transformers, so the utility down power at the site. So you'll have voltage switches, which will basically take the utility, and they'll step it down to 4A site level. So you have generators and you'll have low voltage transformers as well.
Is there any way of moving the generators into phase 1's yard?
There is not. There's no space there.
Good. You have anything else?
Anybody else on the data bank team? Nope, for now, we're good, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, let me go through the consultant's reports then. Okay, I have a letter from the Orangetown ZBA, Rick Oliver, dated March 8th. He has 12 comments. I have another letter from Orangetown DME, Bruce Peters, dated March 24th. He has 8 comments. I have a letter from Orangetown Fire Prevention, dated March 9th. He has no comments. Orangetown Drainage Consultant, Western Samples, Simpson, dated March 5th. They approved drainage with 7 comments. I have a letter from, excuse me, Orangetown Planning Consultant, signed by AKRF, dated March 10th. They have 66. I have a letter from Rockland County Planning Department, dated March 20th. They have 27.1 comments. I have another letter from Rockland County Sewer District Number 1, dated February 25th. They have 2 comments. A letter from Rockland County Center of Environmental Health, dated March 24th. They have 3 comments. I have a letter from Orange and Rockland, dated January 15th, 2006, and the letter reads, Dear Ms. Conway, please be advised that O&R will provide electric and gas facility to the above referred project in accordance with filed tariffs. so they can supply your power for you. Okay, I have a letter of, okay, now we're going to start into the public letters. Public letter from Brian Farm, dated 25th. I have a letter from Mike, 50 Drummond's Road, dated March 25th. I have a letter from Kathy Rutwell, Hudson Terrace, dated March 25th. I have a letter from, if I pronounce your name, please don't kill me on it. Lasda, dated March 25th. I have another letter from Stephen Vicaris and Jane Fuller, March 25th. I have a letter from Raka Atkinson, dated March 25th. Another letter from Brady Amber Clark, March 25th. I have a letter from Judy Gorman, March 25th. I have another letter from Lily Chaplin, March 25th. I have a letter from James Riley, March 25th. A letter from Megan Haney, March 24th. A letter from Jenny Woods, March 24th. A letter from Donna Goldstein, March 24th. A letter from Jen Citrillo, March 24th. A letter from Thomas and Elsie Malone, March 24th. A letter from Allison Krikoff, March 24th. A letter from Aaron Malari, March 24th. A letter from Peter Moltzler, March 4th. A letter from Chris Kabowski and family, March 23rd, New York State Air State Facility Permit. I have a letter from Matthew, March 23rd. A letter from Richard Trillo, March 23rd. A letter from Lily, March 21. A letter from Alto Batali, March 21. Another letter from Jane, March 21. A letter from Thing Van Mass, March 20th. Excuse me, a letter from Myri, March 20th. A letter from Michael Perlman, March 20th. A letter from Ben Poocher, March 20th. I have a request information letter from Orangetown Bonnie Van Olson and Kimberly dated March 19th. I have another request for information letter to the South Orangetown Ambulance Corps from Bonnie Van Olson, March 19th. Slideshow, I'm going to read the whole thing. Slideshow from Data Center Crisis Coalition, March 19th. Public letter from Elizabeth Coe, dated March 19th. Public letter from David Ronson, March 18th. Public letter from Anthony Castellino, March 18th. I have another letter from Chris Davis, Attorney at Law, March 17th. I have a cover letter from Kimberly Horn dated February 3rd, and comments response letter by Kimberly Horn dated February 2nd. Three more. I have another letter dated March 25th from Claudia Nivis. I have another letter dated March 25th from Jane Grumman. I have another letter dated March 25th from Barbara Schuler. Okay, Audrey, anything else?
That's it.
Thank you very much. Okay, Andy, questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a few.
Tell them to turn on the mic.
Turn on your mic.
Use the mic, Andy.
With the downsize of Phase 2, how many megawatts is going to be needed to run Phase 2 and Phase 1, now that you're not going to put in another substation?
It'll be 30 of critical IT capacity, so the substation that's there we'll be able to purpose it as a subset for both phases. 30 megawatts of critical IT. 20 is to phase plus 10 to, so
So
the
you cut it in half
half, yeah.
from the last time?
That's correct. So again, the 3 are there off of the orange one sub. It stays dead to it. There's no further improvements there.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna ask you about the Orange and Rockland letter, where they're gonna buy you stuff. Are they also gonna provide to you, where will the electric come from? How, you know, like, how are they gonna get the electric to you? Is it gonna be,
It's there today.
it's there today?
Yeah, there's no transmission upgrades, no further impact on the regional grid. There's needs to be done. It's just acting at third circuit and firing it up.
Okay. You say there's exhaust fans that are operated by batteries
No, I think that was a misunderstanding. Those are exhaust fans for the facility,
for the facility,
for the
okay.
facility, yeah.
No batteries,
There's batteries in the building that are backup batteries for the UPS, but nothing for,
okay,
nothing that, you know, they're VRLA valved lead acid batteries,
okay.
for, you know, typical batteries location.
So I think you answered the question of chillers. The chillers are all inclusive.
Chillers on the roof, the screen, 12 of them, I believe, yeah, 12 times done, air-cooled chillers. It is a deviation from the first phase. This was a pump refrigerant type application. This one will be a closed-loop chilled system, which is actually more efficient than the refrigeration installation, hence the fact that we modeled it to this application, which is a standard for us.
So, and for you be changing those chillers over to the?
We won't, no, those will remain as is.
Is there, what is the noise of these chillers?
I'd have to check more as far as the noise factored into there from the dB ratings within code compliance.
So, question for you, the sound guy. You said that with the vegetation that's gonna be added on the landscaping, you didn't figure that in, but it's possible that it's gonna lower the, what is it? dBA, it'll lower about 4 decibels.
Correct. That-
Um,
That's not in our model, but it's something we could have, but again, because it's seasonal, we don't consider it generally. But the other aspect of it is when the seasons are colder, the equipment as well. So it's sort of,
When you say seasonal, you mean like winter?
If
The
there's-
leaves are off of the tree, anything like that?
correct.
But you're going, according to the landscape, I think you're gonna be putting in a lot of evergreens. So they're not gonna lose leaves,
Right.
right? Put greens in, where the green giants going? Rick, could you go to page 41, landscape plan?
Yeah. Just to clarify, so there's the existing 100-foot naturally vegetated buffer that's already there. I think that's part of what you're talking about in your analysis. In addition to that, we're adding additional landscaping between the 100-foot vegetation aerator yard
Right
and some of the
here,
evergreens.
100 foot,
Correct.
correct? And that's all vegetated now with woods and
Oh, yes, that's right.
no evergreens or anything, maybe.
Natural, I think
It's
some
all
are.
natural. And then you're gonna put in along here, let me see, what are those?
There's an evergreen, they're called snow sour gums. So they're naturally occurring vegetation. Some are evergreens, some are not. It's meant to be
Do you know what
reflective
kind of
of.
evergreens you wanna put in there? I mean, that's gonna go on to the berm, right? What we're talking
Yeah,
about
they're
there,
green
that's
giant
the berm?
arborvitae, so
Okay,
that,
green
that's gonna
vi-
go on the, it's a low berm, it's 5 feet, but it'll help
Right,
screen and also sound
the
attenuation.
green giants grow 25 feet, so now you're adding 30 feet. You're
Correct.
gonna be at 30 feet, maybe 35 feet. And those are all good acoustics,
Correct.
you know, and then behind that, what kind of tree is that, or is that,
I think that might be a low,
is that like ornamental grasses or something, I think?
these,
Or are they? Yes. Your ornamental, is, okay.
yeah.
You could get ornamental grasses too that grow 10 feet. That portion of the building, that's the south end of the building, there's Old Tapan, where all the residents are concerned about noise and everything else.
That's right. So the equipment yard is well over 300 feet
This is the
from.
equipment yard right here?
No, that's the infiltration basin.
Okay.
The equipment yard is left. It's labeled there as equipment yard. There you go.
Oh,
And
okay.
on another exhibit, we show some dimensioning to the nearest residential properties because it's a few hundred feet from our property line. It's obviously a couple more feet from the line to bring home.
So when you say equipment, what do you mean by equipment? What kind of equipment?
The generator and
The
the transformers,
generators
yeah.
and stuff like that?
And that's still screened in the generator with sound attenuation enclosures, and all of that is factored into.
So what is the decibel level of those generators when they're running?
They're in acoustic enclosed that are rated. Had it, I had in my study here, I think there were 72 decibels at 50 feet, or, 75 decibels at 23 feet, I'm sorry.
At 23 feet?
Correct, at
So
23 feet, 75.
At 23 feet, it'll be at 75. So the further away you get from it, it lessens the dBA.
Absolutely, yes.
Right. And then with all of that vegetation that you're gonna put, that's even get a little bit deader.
Right, so we calculated 60 decibels at the property line, not including any of the vegetation. And then when I add only 100 feet of vegetation, that reduces it about another 4 to 5 decibels. And we might even be able to double that number since we have this added vegetation going in.
Right.
So I haven't even factored any of that in.
So that's gonna be boxed in with acoustics, kind of. Like, was it like a fence that goes around?
Again,
it?
our analysis is only a louvered screen wall that has, I've also factored 0 attenuation for.
Okay.
So that 60 decibel number is no vegetative attenuation and no screen wall attenuation. That's just the sound, assuming it's on a flat, open field.
So now that we're on generators, it's always come up. Generators have to be tested every week, every month, or whatever. So your generators, how many generators are in there?
There's gonna be a total of 8 generators, 6 3 megawatts, and then 2 smaller ones for house power.
Okay. So the 2 for the house power is gonna be tested more often than the others?
No, everything's once a month for about an hour.
When you test these generators, are all 8 gonna be on the same time?
No.
You're gonna test them, one will be tested this week, another one will be
Well,
tested next week?
well, yeah, that's,
Or
and,
once a month or something like that?
yeah, and I think there's a sequencing plan that we submitted as part of the requirements for the operation side of things, as we did in phase 1. It'll just be one at a time. They're not done after hours, they're done during the day, we're not doing them at night.
You're not gonna do it on a weekend when
We won't do it
everybody's
on a
home?
weekend when people are home, it'll just be during your normal work shift.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. And I mean, even during phase 1, when we tested them with load banks at full load, you can't even hear them.
All right. I have nothing more, Tom. I leave some questions for everybody else.
Mike, you have anything?
Yeah, a few questions.
No, I'm saying, thank you, not you. Sorry.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Okay. Start out with the parking. Excuse me. As per map EX3 revised 12926 and C 3.3 also shows the same layout with the yards. The phase 1, you state it's 565 landlocked. Phase 2, 322 for 887, with 69 active for a total of 956. However, the plan does not show the equipment yard for phase 1 and equipment yard and roof road for phase 2. When overlapped on plan, phase 1 loses 135 spots, and phase 2 loses 98 spots for a total of 233. The landlocked total now is 654 plus 69 gives you a total of 703. Can you explain the contradiction between the two plans? Because one shows yards with the generators and the other ones do not show the yards.
Yes, assumption is that in a hypothetical situation where the change would merit the need of all the additional calls, the use would not require the amount of generator redundancy that a dam would require. Therefore, the generator yard would become obsolete and could replace parking stalls.
So you'd have no generators for the building backups?
Correct, but it wouldn't be a data center use any longer.
So you wouldn't be building a data center?
No data center would need that many parking stalls.
Well, I'm talking about our specific plans, not a future, something else being built there, like a warehouse or whatever else. or a factory. We're talking about the data center specifically. I don't want to make assumptions for other things.
I'm not sure I understand the question. The land bank plan is for an alternative use that would necessitate having all the additional land bank parking.
So you'd be coming back here for a different use.
The future developer would have to, new application, yes.
Right, any new would have to come back to this board for, if back to an office, as Verizon was there for many years, it would have to come back board for a site plan.
Okay, the overall slant scan, LA 1.0, Division 13026, Westonson number 11. Okay, that plan shows plantings on the side adjacent to the equipment yard. Into the Plan E3, landmark parking located there. If the parking was needed, what would have trees, the screening?
Again, I think the future would have to propose in use and then the need for additional parking.
But the screening is a must.
Screening the future use
Yeah,
or
whatever it
screening the
is,
use of the current facility.
whatever's built in this town, there's screening always. We did that with Amazon, we've done that with the last warehouse that came through. Okay. The plans show parking up to the 100-foot buffer without an equipment yard. So no more equipment yard, there'd be no more, so you're saying there'd be no data center, if I'm correct? And so there wouldn't be no need for the equipment.
One point to make about the land bank plan, we didn't clear any of the vegetated buffer that we've maintained for our proposal, but that's not to say that a future developer would propose to clear the area within the setback, which is potentially possible for parking. We didn't design it that way, because we didn't want to clear it in our proposal.
What do you mean, the 100-foot buffer?
The vegetated area between the property line and the setback line.
Yeah, that's not gonna be changed. It's my opinion. Okay, on the LGA 4 site plan found in the environmental assessment form, the EAF, Part 3 dated 2/2/26, section Centec LGA 4 sound study 2/2/25 shows backup generators for the building 2 on the east side. Why was this changed? Or are you planning to relocate them back there as a result of the parking plan?
I'm not sure. Repeat the question.
Okay, the Centec L4 sound study, it shows in there, the Dyke building, it shows that the generators, backup generators are going to be positioned on the east side of the building. Okay,
That's the former design, it's no longer
The
proposed.
larger building, yeah.
okay,
Generated in the orientation side of the building to the south side of the building when the building, and the capacity of the building shrunk.
okay. So it could not be placed on that side.
The phase one is on the east side, the larger yard. The phase here is moved to the south side, as you see in this.
Okay, lighting plan that was submitted, it has light, and this was the review. The lighting plan shows for building number 2 that it's going to comply with the, where is it now? The dark sky, thank you. Are we going to, and we asked too, because neighbors had complained that building 1, which doesn't have the black sky type lighting, is that going to be retrofitted to contain dark sky lighting? Because even with the AKRF's letter dated 3/10/26, number 5, page 3, people, and 25B on page 10 and 11, they talk about wildlife and the disruption to wildlife and to residents based upon the lighting that's not dark sky. Is that going to be corrected?
Yeah, it's already been corrected, from my understanding, correct, Dana?
Yes,
Yeah, they've been turned off, those lights, with respect to phase 1.
So you're going to have any lights there, or just
I think they were going to the motion?
Yeah.
Motion.
motion up?
Yeah, we're looking at some modifications to those lights. To answer your questions there, I think there was some aftermarket on the generator enclosures from just a safety perspective for when folks are doing their walks in the yard. And that's something we've already started to address.
Yeah, those are the ones that Tony's referring that have been shut off.
Oh, okay, all right, that's the ones we're talking about.
Those are the ones that we talked about.
In the water, AKRF comments on 3/10/20, page 5, number 8 and 9. Letter should be obtained from Veolia, verifying it has sufficient capacity to this project. Since once it's approximately 3 years, this letter should state the demand will not exceed the safe and sustainable capacity of the aquifer or Veolia. That's as of 25 AKRF letter. The letter containing the above requested information been requested from Veolia or received from Veolia this time.
We've submitted a new WAS application to Veolia, and our calculations are less than C requested and approved. That was calculated full build-out, including phase 1 and 2, at its full size, which was at 3 years ago. So we reduced the calculation on the demand, and we took Veolia
Yeah,
for.
so that will serve to echo what Dan was saying, was based on the 105,000 square foot and 106,000 square foot Phase 2 building.
Okay, get a new letter from
Right,
VS?
that's in the works, right?
Okay.
The one that was obtained 3 years ago accounts for
Right.
both at the full
Yeah.
scale.
Okay.
We don't find that to be an issue, where it's in the works to get it, because again, we the
Okay, now we took people, and I know you talked about this in phase 1, but I'd like to put it on the record for phase 2. Please describe what measures, including generator construction, will be taken to contain any spills reaching the wetlands of Lake Tapan, oil, diesel, fuel, oil water separators, including the topping off of the tanks. Can you go through that?
So the tanks themselves are double wall tanks, so as a penetration, you have a secondary up to it. There's fuel sensors that'll stop filling or stop from use at a certain percentage. And then also, what do we do on there was a oil.
We have an oil water separator, fuel spill alarm within the generator yard.
Okay, if there's a spill, where's the oil go?
Doesn't leave the generator.
Okay, you have the, in the original place, there was a concrete pit the generators are placed on. They won't-
It's the same configuration with the stone surrounding it, and again, the drain will actually, all separator, I think the board actually requests part of phase 1, and we implemented it into the design.
Okay, and that, so that whatever goes stone's gonna go up within the, whatever the plastic or whatever's below, and then it'll all to the oil water separator, is that correct?
So, yes,
Okay, all right. That's one we haven't did.
yeah, no, it's consistent, isn't on that.
All right. Okay. Now, regarding the permanent loss of lands, which is .097 is, and the adjacent area is 1.407 acres, included in the AKR 310-20, number 3A. Mitigation is proposed to offset the impact. That you were showing a diagram up there, which you would, could you please elaborate on that?
Yeah. I mean, we discussed several options, either creation of wetlands adjacent to wetland or enhancement of the stream or the basin area on wetland 1. We felt that more than made up for the loss of wetland I discussed was a lower quality wetland. Wetland 1 is a higher quality wetland. It is connected to Lake Tappan. So we thought that those measures would materially and positively affect the water quality and that aquatic system as a whole. And again, that will be discussed with the DEC in our permit application.
Okay, so, right now you haven't you haven't come up with any alternative layouts, specifically showing what would be done to, replace the refilling of the wetland too?
It's just conceptual at that time, at this point, what we had shown on the screen there, but there would be landscaping plans and grading plans, and it would be further designed once we
Right,
get
in
some
the
buy-in from
DEC, in
DEC.
the DEC negotiations or talks with DEC, did you, are those all offered alternative by you, or you're waiting for them to give you alternatives, or?
We're waiting for feedback from them. They've been, some of them have been presented.
Okay. Which ones were presented to them so far?
The enhancement options and the wetland creation to the east, the wetland creation to the west, that sort of funnel-shaped green
Okay.
polygon, has not been presented to them.
Good, okay. So wetland creation hasn't been set?
Wetland creation to the east was presented. I think the wetland creation to the west will probably be preferable, just from an access standpoint. It's slightly less impacts to the adjacent area. I think it's just easier to accomplish, but yes, we anticipate that they will, given the acreage and size of those proposed options, some combination of them should be acceptable, given the impacts.
All right. Regarding electricity, I know AKRF page 5, number 10, dated 3/10/26, revised plan lowered the use of as provided the will serve letter from O&R dated 1/15/26. Additional information was requested by the board at the last meeting and by the Building Department review letter dated 1/6/26. The Building Department comments were answered in a letter from Kimmy Horn dated 2/2/26, item 4B, asking if any upgrades were needed. The answer was no. 4C will pay answer, no upgrades. However, some repairs to existing infrastructure and O&R will complete. And the last one, the question was that, will you sign an agreement that residents bear any portion of grid grade cost? And he said not, since O&R provided a will serve letter stating additional upgrades not required. The letter only will serve, no mention of upgrades. You state no upgrade, but also states some repairs to the existing structure are in progress and to be completed in the quarter of 26. Are any of these repairs necessary for the operation of the facility?
Repairs to Orange and Rockland have been completed. There are upstream enhancements or upstream upgrades to it. The regional grid stays non-impacted. Everything that's there remains. O&R did have one of the transformers. I don't know if it was bad. I don't know if there was winding issue. I'm not sure. They have completed that work at this.
Okay. Is that transformer connected to project? Or-
No, it's standalone for the that circuit will feed second building.
Okay.
Whatever they needed to do on their side is at this time. There's no additional demand to the grid, to the regional grid. It is as it's been for years.
Okay, questions were asked as to the grid's complete. You answered in item 41. You cannot release power agreements which are confidential. Requests should be made to O&R. Do you have any objections to O&R release these to the planning board and the department?
You can request it. I don't think they'll release any of that. I have no objection to request it, though. They're very proprietary on a lot of that information.
Okay. According to the plans, there are 26 backup generators. I'm just talking about the 3 megawatt ones. Okay, it's a 24 megawatts capacity and the two 1.5 megawatt capacities. That's a total capacity of 75 megawatts, if I'm correct on that. The substation will produce, now is it 30 or 40 for this project? Because one, I read it in, I don't know if Horn's letter or one of the other places where they mentioned it's 40. Is it 30 or 40?
It's 30 of critical IT. It's 45 of actually measured at the grid, at the utility level.
What does that mean?
That means there's 3 15 megawatt banks, so bank 1, bank 2, bank 3.
Okay,
That'll be 15, 15, 15 out of that existing substation. So when you look at it from a power usage, there's 45 at the utility level. The critical side is what we're utilizing for the IT load, which will be
Okay.
30 megawatt. The other is for, house power, cooling, and other things in the building.
what's that, the smaller generators?
No, that's just coming from the grid. It's how we're using it.
So you use 30 as the backup for the generators, and what's additional for the other?
It's, again, critical comes off of the UPS system, but the 45 itself will be purposed for cooling load, for building load, whatever else is
Okay,
there.
when that goes down, when the backup generators
Oh,
are
the
on.
backup generators will be able to support all full load of the buildings.
Okay, at 30, as long as you have 30 megawatts coming out of the.
Yeah, we can call it 45 if we want to just talk about it from the utility level, just to keep it
Right.
simple.
Okay,
But yes, the generators will be able to support full load, plus additional redundant. If one of those gens goes bad, then you have a backup on
Yes.
each lineup.
the redundancy is the reason for this 5 megawatts of power.
5 megawatts?
No,
Yeah.
5 in the backup generators produce.
Oh, yeah, it's just from, you break it down into systems. I mean, we can get deep into those technical discussions, but it's,
But it,
block, 6 per block, 6 per
right,
block is,
a lot of it's for the redundancy, in
it's,
other words.
most of it's for,
That substation goes out, and the reason I'm asking it was the Spark substation had a fire on 9, on or about 9, which caused a black area. Is there any, the substation at the data bank there, is that used for other areas, or is that totally dedicated to data bank? If you know?
with the expansion of Phase 2 and that third circuit, it'll be dedicated to that campus.
Okay, so it's totally yours
There's
then.
no other load on that.
Okay,
Bloomberg's not on that?
No. That was all prior Verizon with a future circuit that was never utilized.
all right. Okay, community facilities, I see you submitted letters to Orangetown PD and the Orangetown EMS. Okay. Okay, yeah, Orangetown PD and South Orangetown Ambulance Corps. Were there any requests, as I think it was asked, any requests to the Pearl River or South Orangetown Volunteer Fire Departments as to their They only saw the letters from the EMS and police.
We submitted to Pearl River,
Okay, I didn't see
and the
the,
ambulance and the police.
yeah, okay, I didn't see the letter for the,
I copied them, but I can send them again.
yeah, just the fire, but we have everything else.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, going back to the study by Centec, on page 6 of 18, it's a solid screen wall 15 feet above foot level, will provide soundation for the rooftop chillers, is that correct?
That was included in the model, yes.
Okay, and those chillers are are updated ones with they have their own sound attenuation or?
They were yes, the quieter selection.
Right, okay. Now, that works, now, however, the 15-foot louvered fence around the generator pads, they don't provide any sound attenuation.
The enclosures for the generators do themselves. That's just to screen in so that the public or anybody doesn't
Right.
just see generators coming up to a building.
Visual.
Yeah, visuals, yeah, correct, yeah.
Isn't there any way to, keeping the visual, the look of it, to add something on the inside that would increase the sound attenuation coming out of there, would definitely lower the sound levels of the generators?
There's options to do whatever. I just think that the compliance is at the generator enclosure level itself. So those are pretty beefy enclosures, pretty penny paying for those as well.
Right.
You're doubling it up, and I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah, well, how much, if another wall was put in there similar to the sound attenuation placed around the rooftop on the at the parapet height, what would, how much
Should-
low?
There's some additional studies that we, sorry, there's
Oh.
some additional studies that we do for the project at the yard to serve those louvers for the generators. If it were to go solid, then there's going to be some airflow issues for the generators. So that's why we selected the materials that we did for the yard.
We had the same issue in phase, we actually had some space.
Yeah, I know,
for the
yeah.
yard.
Okay. Almost done. Okay. Yeah, the full environmental assessment, part 2, impacts on air, page 6A, emission or more greenhouse gases at or above a specific level, and Roman letter 1, carbon dioxide, CO2, a year, and numeral 2, nitrite N20 is 3.5 tons a year. Now, the pre-construction air permit application, table 2, dated 5/25/25, revised 1/26, that's DEC 1D3-3924-00119, shows CO2 at 2,524 tons per year, or a 152% increase, okay, and nitrous oxide at 5.37 tons a year, which is 53% over the recommended amounts. Are there any steps being taken to reduce these levels?
Just to that point, just don't forget, on the part 2 that was done, Mr. Mendel, that was also based on the full build at the 146,000 square foot. So
Okay.
it's something to redo,
Yeah, it's-
part 2, based on the smaller scale.
Then the original FEAF should be revised and numbers put in?
Yeah, the part 2 redo, because we did the part 2 back in October on
Right.
146, and we have to do a new one.
Yeah, which was based on the
Right, the
original FEAF, include any of the numbers on it. But it's still, even at that reduction, still gonna be over. So,
I don't know. Paul, you know on that one?
yeah, in other words, even when we update the, using the lower size building, it's still gonna be within that area of, over what they talk about in, 6A, numbers 1 and 2, CO2 and nitrous oxide levels.
I think the report does need to get updated for the application. as
Right.
well.
But I still think that those numbers, if you take a look at them, will still be above what they talk about, which makes it significant. And what would you do to reduce it? Similar to, I know, the diesel tractors, or the trailers, they have different types to reduce their emissions. I was wondering what you'd use on the diesel backup generators that will reduce it.
I don't have that data in front of me to.
No,
but
that's-
We make sure that we do try to be compliant with.
Yeah, well, I'd like, if we can get an answer on that, I would appreciate.
Yeah, we can check back with our air consultant on that. They file with the state and with, air quality as well, so we'll have to look into that and get back.
Okay. Okay. Oh, just two last quick things. What's the timeline on the repair of the service road, the fire access road, which was part of Phase 1? Discussed at the project review?
The access road now has cleared the geogrid and has placed stone down on it as a top course, which we've had reviewed by a geotechnical engineer and verified that it is capable of supporting the 75,000-pound fire truck road or access use, and we've submitted to the fire chief, and the road is operational. We are in the process of amending our Phase 1 SWIP to fully pave that road with asphalt, and that'll be the permit condition that is under the Phase 1 site permit.
All right, thank you very much. No further questions, Mr.
Thank
Chairman.
you, sir.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Lisa, questions?
No, I was
or comments?
laughing because Mike and Andy have pretty much asked all the questions that I have written here. You've hit on it. One of them.
I
in ter-
apologize.
That's okay, I'm glad. In terms of lighting, the electric, the wetland, enhancing the stream with the DEC, I'm very happy to hear that you're going to be working with them to do that. I think I don't have anything else unique to add or ask. Mike's asked a lot, but can you talk a little bit? I know people are concerned about Lake Tapan and the potential negative impact that this building might have on it in terms of pollution, draining the lake, wildlife in the water. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. As far as water, I made the comment earlier, but we won't draw a single drop of water for building consumption out of Lake Tapan. So we're not going to be draining the lake. Again, the reason to move air-cooled chillers, it's much more clean, much more environmentally friendly. I don't see any impact. I really just think there's a lot of misconceptions out there, and we understand. We hear, the public loud and clear. We've heard the community concerns. We're here to support it. There's just a little bit of learning curve in misconception that maybe something from media or whatever source.
Will there be anything into the lake?
There's nothing from that perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing drains into the lake. And on site from the disturbance flows into our stormwater management practices. We're going to have a water management basin. It's an infiltration basin, and it'll handle water quality and water quality in accordance with the state stormwater design guidelines, and either percolate the ground as it naturally would, or ultimately discharge into the water as it naturally would. And that'll all be reviewed by the town engineer.
So, Lisa, to add to that, and I made some notes here for myself, but the environmental impact contamination was a question. We've completely required environmental stuff. We're in full compliance with all regulatory requirements. Runoff mitigation plans are in place. We went through a very rigorous review process, even through the first phase. And we welcome that at every step in the process, but we're compliant and check the box everywhere you look.
Okay, I don't, after we hear again our consultants speak, I might have other questions. Thank you.
Yeah, I wasn't when this was approved in '83. I wasn't on the board when this was approved in '83, but just in looking at it quickly, in order to get Phase 1 through, you agreed to land bank the parking, and now you're coming back to build on the land bank parking. I've never seen before on any project. I was on the board probably 25 plus years. Never done before. Where they're going to build on the land bank parking. Also, Verizon was there for a number of years. They had a long-standing agreement with the Pro Little League to let them use parking. Up in this area, up here, to the, I guess it'd be to the right, looking at this picture of to the detention bond. What's in there now? there's no, you're not showing any trees, so I assume it's just flat land. It borders the, I guess, the pump station over there, I guess it's a sewer pump station, I believe. So why can't you build park here and let the Little League? Yeah. But at least, no. All right, forget about League using it. Why don't you build parking there to help relieve the land bank area? I mean, that's the problem I have with it. You land banked, you agreed to land bank it, and basically, that did away with phase two once you agreed to do that.
That's not true, and that's not what your approval said. And your approval specifically stated, and I have it here, and we quoted it. Okay, I know you weren't here that time, but the resolution specifically said that we're seeking phase one, and we have to return for phase two for the planning board. So it states repeatedly in your resolution back in 2023 that the board held that you have to return back to the planning board for approval of phase two. So it contemplated phase two being, we didn't know exactly what the size was. We had an idea that it was gonna be a mirror, but it was always contemplated. And again, the land banking is really for, again, if this ceases to be used as a data center at some point, again, if it goes back to Verizon type use of an office, that's what that banking's for. And again, it doesn't preclude us from coming to ask you.
There is no bank.
But my point is, it doesn't preclude the applicant from coming back, because it was contemplated when we did phase one, going to come back here for phase two. And there's nowhere in your approval, again, I understand you weren't there, Mr. Bond, but there's nowhere in the approvals that said that we got the opportunity or the development phase two. It's very clear in our submission or resolution that we were coming back for phase two.
But phase two is not a given.
Well, we disagree on that point, because again, you have a data center that's already next door, and again, it was coming back in your approvals back in 2023.
But why can't you build more parking up here? Help satisfy at least an effort.
Again, if you're talking about the Little League, we went through issue before, and again, I'm not going to parking. We have a plan here. We believe it can complete the exception of the variances that we need for the loading coverage. And again, same variance for phase one, we're going to require here. It's different.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of this. That's just.
The full assessment form, please.
Yeah, so I was just gonna kind of do a brief overview of our comment letter. I won't go into too much because planning board members have already done most of it, as the applicant's team.
Can you just explain to the who you are and why you're here?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Corey Block. I am a planner with AKRF, joined by my colleague Ashley Lai, also with AKRF. We were retained by the town to look at the potential environmental effects of this proposed project. And so that's what our comment letter relates to. There's a lot of different subject areas. You can read each comment letter. It's posted online. A lot of them are fairly technical, so we won't get into them today. But just to touch on a few of them, and actually first I had a couple clarifying questions. So the proposed project in total would be 45 kilowatts, is that?
45 megawatts at the utility level, yeah.
Okay, because in the application, there's a lot of times that it does say 30, so that was a little,
It's 30 of IT, of critical IT.
okay, well,
It's the way it's misconstrued that the industry uses versus that the utility level uses another term. It's, again, for ease of communication, it's 5 megawatt at the utility level.
okay, cool. And then the other question I have is the lighting that you shut off. Where was that at?
There's some lighting, generator enclosures themselves, there was some reflection being shot up the concrete.
Okay, because I was gonna say the picture that we looked at from the night lighting looked like something was lit up top.
It was
like
it was
on top of
reflecting
the
off
building.
reflecting off of the concrete.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's good that that was taken care of.
I just want to note too, that the lighting at the perimeter still would be 0.0 foot candles, pitch black at the perimeter of the property, based on the lighting models and specifications that we have for site lighting.
Are you retrofitting any of the lighting to be a lower color temperature to match what you're proposing in your current plan? Because of dark sky compliant needs to be 3,000 Kelvin, and if what you have there is currently higher than that, it wouldn't be compliant.
Yeah, that's the goal there, is to solve for that.
Okay, so
And
when
I've instructed the operations team to, and I had them send some photos the other night, the last 2 nights, disabled majority of those and kept, dark lights on. It's a world of a difference.
When you remit, you should update your lighting plan out for both Phase 1 and Phase 2, show where you're making fits or permanently removing fixtures.
Nope.
Okay, we hadn't seen those wetland mitigation proposals, so we haven't had time to review them. That was something that we requested in our comment letter, so that the way the town can make sure that any possible impacts are being mitigated. So we will have to review that and get back to y'all. And then, sorry, going back to the lighting, we had requested looking at it. You had submitted some new renderings that showed during the day, the view with the landscaping and everything, but we had asked the applicant team to look into the nighttime renderings as well because of the adjoining neighbors and the pictures that the board has received and some of the levels of lighting. Other than that, I think there was a couple of comments from our noise team, just kind of more clarifying comments, I believe. So if you can submit that supporting documentation. And then the other natural resource comment was just talking about migratory birds. They don't seem to be discussed in the EAF outside of the bald eagle.
Can I respond to that? I do believe there was a list of migratory birds. I had reviewed eBird records, like birding, local citizen science eBird records from the surrounding area. I can get you the page number, but I do believe something was in there.
I think it was listed but not discussed on impacts, potential impacts, or if they're in the area or if you expect them to be in the area, right? And then the other one was that the EAF does indicate that herbicides and pesticides would be used. So there's a management plan that we would like to see go along with that to make sure that there isn't contamination in the water bodies. I think that is it. The other part then, I'll pass to Ashley, is talking about the next steps in the part 2.
So as you know, we did receive updated plans. We do still have some substantive comments that we feel need to be addressed before a secret determination could be made. But what we're recommending tonight is to walk back through the part 2 to address the changes to the project since you last reviewed it, since the project did get smaller. So some of the things that were previously identified as yes and moderate to large may now be small or no. So what I'm suggesting is we go off the version that the board last reviewed, so we can jump right to the ones where it was checked large and just re-review those comments. So is this mic working? The other one works better? Okay. So on page 1, impact on land, previously E and F were identified as moderate to large. We are recommending that those remain the same, unless the board has a concern. 2 remains no. 3, impacts on surface water. Previously, D and E were checked moderate to large. Sorry. D is the proposed action may involve construction within or adjoining freshwater or tidal wetland. E is the proposed action may create turbidity in a water body, either from upland erosion, runoff, or by disturbing bottom sediments. What was presented tonight did address this to some extent, but as we noted, we have not had the opportunity to review that in detail. So we would recommend it stay moderate to large for the time being. Oh, and I apologize. We also had H and I checked as moderate to large, and recommend that those remain the same as well. Four and 5 still remain no. 6, impact on air was checked yes, and A through were all checked moderate to large. As discussed this evening, we have not restated information from the applicant regarding the levels, so we would recommend that they moderate to large, and comment is addressed. 7, impact plants and animals, previous checked yes, and A through A through E were checked moderate to large, as was G. We are recommending that those remain moderate. Eight was checked no, that can stay no. 9 was checked yes, and A, C, and D were checked to large. This is regarding impacts on aesthetic resources. We are seeking for some information that would address some of these concerns. We're recommending that these remain moderate for now. 10 was checked, but then everything was checked no or so. We recommend that stays the same. Impact on open space and recreation was checked no, stays the same. 12, impact on critical environmental areas was checked no, would stay the same. 13 was yes, this is impact on transition, but A through E were all no or small, that remains the same. 14 was checked yes, and B were checked moderate to large. We are amending that those be changed to no or but that C and D remain moderate to large. 15 was checked yes. A and E were checked moderate to large. We still have outstanding comments on the noise, so at this time we are recommending that they remain moderate. 16 checked no, that remains the same. 17 was checked yes, C and D were checked moderate to large, those can remain the same. 18 was checked no, and that can remain the same. Happy to answer any questions from the board on any of those recommendations. Number 14? Yep. So 14 is impact on energy. A is the proposed action will require a new or an upgrade to an existing substation. Because the project has gotten smaller, that is no longer required. So we are recommending that that get changed from moderate to large to no or small. And B was the proposed action requiration or extension of an energy transmission or supply system to serve more than 50 single or two-family residents or to serve a commercial or industrial use. As said earlier, no requires any upgrades or extension service, so that can be changed to no small. The other two, the C was proposed action may utilize more than 2,000 megawatt hours per year of electricity. That still remains the case, so that would stay moderate to large. And the proposed action may involve heating or cooling of more than 100,000 square feet of building area when completed. Because we have to look at this project as a whole, the entire building is going to be roughly 200,000 square feet or more. That should remain moderate to large.
Thank you. Anybody else? Need backup storage batteries?
No, just UPS batteries, this is what I was telling you, that it transfers over when
Right,
the site.
because I know there's concern where some of these battery farms.
I read something about a BESS system,
Yeah,
and that has nothing to do with the site.
Okay, I
Yeah.
just want to make sure that everybody knew that there's no battery storage other than the little
Yeah.
things. Okay. I'm going to open it up to the public right now. I'm going to ask a couple of things. Number one, we want everybody to speak, okay? You're going to be allowed 3 minutes. I'm going to try something different. Hopefully, it'll work out. A lot of you sent in letters. Please do me a favor, come up, what's your name, and say, I sent, and just leave it at that. We all have basically the same issues. If the person in front has said basically the same thing you have said, please put your name and address and say the same thing as the people. We have a lot of people, we want to hear everybody. So if everybody talks their 3 minutes, we're going to be here all night. So again, that's what you allow. So there is a sign-up sheet. whomever.
Where's the sign-up?
As you speak, not come up
Yeah,
to
right,
sign
as you
up.
speak,
When
come
you
up.
speak, you can sign.
Right. And again, like I said, if you could do us a favor, if you had sent a letter prior to it, just please come up, state your name, acknowledge the letter, and then let the next person speak, just to save time. We're not looking to shortcut anything, but that's what. Sir, if you're first, sign in.
Mr. Chairman, I need a motion, please.
Yeah, okay, we can start, yeah, okay. Can I have a motion to open up the public?
Motion to open public portion. Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, okay. Thank you.
Can I take one of these?
Oh, sure, please.
Thank you. I'll do it. I know. It's a
Do not
recall.
come, excuse me.
Is the butter
Do
roll?
not sign in until you speak. Do not sign in until you actually speak.
Right behind, get on the line, yeah.
Oh, the camera now.
Yeah, I know, it's okay,
right.
it's okay, we have no choice, we don't want to move anything. Yes, sir, please, go ahead, state your name.
Okay.
and-
Good evening, my name is Clifford Davis, I'm an attorney.
I don't think,
I submitted a letter.
Folks, please, we can't hear him.
the microphone's not on.
There should be a button on it somewhere.
Try now.
Try now.
Hello, hello, hello.
Yes, very good, thank you.
Good evening, members of the planning board. My name is Clifford Davis. I submitted a letter on March 17th, but if you would, I came here, I drove 60 miles, I represent a few people, if you'd give me my 3 minutes, okay? So I'm counsel for David Rosen and Chris Kilbiowski. Why are we here? This application is confirmed by the zoning code, AKRF, the updated comprehensive plan, and the Rockland County Planning Board has made clear that this application is not a permitted use in the LIO zone. There is no 2026 building department interpretation to the contrary, and there couldn't be. As to the recent March 20th Rockland County Planning Board letter, my understanding is that my client spoke with the board. The board never actually voted on it, and no comments from the staff. So I believe that there has to be a further submission from the Rockland County Planning Board. Second, and this is in reference to Council Sharetta. This applicant already agreed as a condition 14 to this board's approval to its phase 1 approval that there would be phase 2. Mr. Sharetta says, I don't know where it is, but it'll be there. Well, condition 4 states, quote, the land bank parks will be where a second phase of the data bank center was proposed in previous iterations of the site plan. The applicant must understand that the proposed land parking spaces, phase 2, as fully illustrated, cannot be constructed. Phase 1 received its building permit specifically, and it represents that it would comply with that condition, and there would be no phase 2. There must be a declaration here. AKRF has made clear the standard is so low. Only need the potential for one significant adverse environmental impact. And AKRF has stated that to ignore phase 1 and not treat phase 2 together would be illegal segmentation. Most disturbing is that the applicant tries to pull a fast one on this board. Data bank said it can cite 954 land parking spaces for the combined phase 1 and phase 2 project. The data bank arrives at that number through voodoo math, which has been exposed by the town's consultants. The planning department in its March 9th, 2026 memorandum stated, land bank parking is proposed within in the 100 front and rear yards and would require clearing a wooded buffer to be implemented. The code, it's not because they're so generous that there's a buffer there. The code requires a 100-foot buffer. There can be no activities in there. Yet DataBank seeks to throw my clients who live in New Jersey under the bus and to assert that land bank parking spaces, that it is willing to remove the entire wooded area, not only required by law, but which also protects my client. And the rendering in my letter shows that. They want to take out the buffer. AKRF has caught them as well. In dealing with that the equipment is going to be in the equipment yard where the land bank parking spaces are. DataBank has still not addressed the electricity. O&R letter, let me just finish this. The O&R letter to their submissions, it's only 1 words, and all that it says is that electricity. It doesn't answer any of the questions regarding electricity that AKRF requested that they specifically address.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having this hearing. I'm Lori Peak. I live in Tapan. Here to Peek, and I'm to
Hold on
speak.
just a second. Clock. Okay, go ahead.
I'm here, thank you, to speak on behalf of the Sierra Club. Comments that Peggy Kurtz, local Rockland County Sierra Club leader, gave me. Now, I did hear things tonight, a little bit of moot, so I'm going to just skip around a bit. And I'll just give you a couple big picture things. She says, we call on the planning board to require a full environmental review. I'm still not clear yet. Most of all, defies common sense to build a data center that includes fuel tanks and electrical equipment on a public drinking water reservoir. The possibility of contamination of Lake Tapan from leaking tanks or from an electrical fire is very real. Our water resources are just too precious to risk for this project. It is very ironic that at the same time, the town recently completed a state funding about soil protection, and here the town is contemplate siting a data center right next to a drinking water reservoir. And here's some other concerns. What are the guarantees, safeguards put in place to ensure the amount of water that these facilities will use won't increase dramatically over time? Who will be monitoring this? A suggestion, could gray water supply the cooling needs of the data center? They're concerned about the habitat for, it says, bald eagles on the site, and payments to other projects in lieu of preservation of habitat is not acceptable. And I didn't hear this addressed, will DataBank commit to maintaining a maximum of pervious surface? I was thinking about that asphalt road as I listened to you, plus a policy of no lawn chemicals on the property. I heard something about pesticides, and I don't see why that's necessary. They have other treatments now. The Rockland County Board says here, rejected this project. I'm not sure that that's the amended project she's referring to. It is essential that the board require a full environmental review through the SEQRA process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Ma'am, sign it?
Of course.
We ask you to sign off this while you're wondering. The stenographer takes notes, but unless we're going to a court case, we're going to have those transcribed. Remember, the staff takes notes as to what people said, makes it easier if they can get the name right, that we can have it properly in the minutes of the meeting. So thank you.
AKRF is asking if they can speak and then sign, the line moves quicker. Can they do that, or?
Okay, we'll do that. Okay.
Yeah,
Good evening. My name is Natalie Saw, and I am the New York State Chairperson of the Environmental and Climate Justice Committee, AAP. The NIAC chapter of the NAACP, the Spring Valley chapter, and the Environmental and Climate Justice Committee opposed to the expansion of the data center and the construction of the battery energy site in Orangetown. Reports about existing data centers and sites inform us that these facilities cause an inordinate amount of environmental damage, consume massive energy and water, generate continuous noise. The energy storage sites have the potential for fires such intensity that specialized training and equipment required. The site selection process was faulty, not cooperatively work with unity. That is a contributing factor to the unity's opposition. For these reasons, the NAACP calls for a moratorium on the construction of the data center and construction of the battery energy storage site until the concerns are mitigated to a level with no harm to residents, businesses, wildlife, and the environment in Orangetown and all of Rockland County. Rockland's water supply is uniquely precious. Rockland is one of the only few counties in the entire state whose water supply is precipitation. The county is also obligated to send water to New Jersey under certain conditions. Protection of the reservoir well fields is imperative. Data centers require tremendous amounts of water on a daily basis to cool its machinery. What is the source of that water? the use of the county's finite potable water supply to cool machinery is missing. If Lake Tappan, it might be possible to meet this to harm levels. And we know it's a drinking water supply. And there was information, looked at the planning documents, actually rejection of this project. And it said in one statement that they didn't receive the requested comprehensive energy analysis from the applicant. Pursuant to the Rockland County Department of Planning analysis, this facility requires approximately 1,681,920,000 kilowatt hours based on 16 megawatts for the 5 data halls, operating 24 hours a day. The average household consumes 10,500 kilowatt hours of electricity annually. Based on the energy use estimated in this application, the proposed data center would demand more energy than 160,000 homes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, time is up.
And there's more. Can I submit?
No, ma'am.
No,
Everybody's allowed 3 minutes.
let me ask the question.
be fair to
Can I
everybody,
submit
ma'am.
the written report?
Ma'am,
That's what I wanted to know.
you can file with the building department. Thank you very much, ma'am. Give me, speak, and then when you're done, you can sign in, and then the next person.
I got you.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it. Don't worry.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Pascal Jean Giles. I live in the village of Nyack. JEAN-GILLES. My first name, PASCALEE. So as I was listening through this, the one thing I didn't hear from any of the board or from the data center is what the public benefit will be. I didn't hear you extract any promises, questions, things that we needed here in this, and I didn't hear any of the centers offer that. When we got these projects, we have a lot of warehouses coming up. This is gonna be what, one of 3 or 4 or 5 that's already in this village, in this town, excuse me. I didn't hear anything about whether there's gonna be a new park or traffic safety improvements or a new sidewalk or anything that the town actually needs in this. Maybe that was addressed in other meetings, I didn't see that. I also looked at the past few planning board meeting agendas. I haven't seen a housing project come up in a while other than people's repairs. I could be mistaken on that, but this town is losing people. We are losing in the census, we are losing in congressional representation, we are losing in funding that's coming to our town, and a data center is not gonna fill that. And I would really hope that this planning board considers exacting for what this town actually needs. These folks, they clearly have a lot of deep pockets, they got a lot of lawyers that they can pay. They should be able to provide the town with some evidence that we actually need. And, okay, I still have a few minutes. I haven't seen anything recently, like major stuff being built, and we are losing in this town. And I hate for when this AI bubble inevitably bursts, and it will, for these data centers to turn into something that we would not want to see in our town. So I'd like this town board to consider some of that because people live here, you guys live here just like I do. I know others will talk how all of our costs are property taxes, all of those things. Thankfully, this is not a pilot, so I'm assuming some money going into our schools that through the tax program here. I think those are a lot of things that we need to consider, and I would really like to see you guys exact more promises on how to improve the town from these guys, because they clearly have the money to do it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, my name's Jolie Rosen. I grew up at 10 Buckingham Place, directly behind this project. I now live in Manhattan, but this is still my family's home. And I want to tell you what Phase 1 actually feels like to live next to, because I think the board deserves to hear it from someone who grew up there.
And the board should face the speaker.
Excuse me.
Ma'am, be quiet, let us speak.
Phase 1 runs 24 hours a day. There's a constant mechanical hum from the HVAC units. There's generator testing. There's industrial lighting that floods into our neighbors' yards at night. The neighborhood I grew up in no longer has quiet evenings. Phase 2 would place another diesel generator yard even closer to our homes, on residential-facing sides of campus, not the corporate park side. Now, here is something this board should find deeply troubling about the generators. DataBank states that Phase 1 operates at 20 megawatts, Phase 2 10 megawatts, for a stated total of 30 megawatts. But the number of diesel generators already installed and operating at Phase 1 is far greater than what needed to back up a 20 megawatt facility. The generator capacity on site appears to exceed what the combined 30 megawatt campus would require. That raises a straightforward question this board never received a straight answer to. What is the actual power of Phase 1? And what is DataBank really planning for this campus? If the generators already exceed the capacity, the 30 mega figure is not a ceiling, it's a floor. And yet, the only evidence DataBank has provided that the grid can handle any of this is a 21-word letter from Orange and Rockland Utilities that says nothing more than they will provide service in accordance with filed tariffs. Your own staff asked the right question. Has ONR or NYISO provided a written assessment of how this load affects the outage frequency and voltage stability for surrounding neighborhoods? The answer was to point back to that same 21-word letter. That is not an analysis. This is not good enough for the 30 megawatt industrial campus next to homes and a drinking water reservoir. I respectfully ask that this board to visit our neighborhood before casting a final vote, to stand in our backyard and hear the hum for themselves. Numbers and decibel readings do not capture what it feels like to live with Phase 1, and the families on Buckingham Place should not have Phase 2. Board to deny this application. And if the board is not prepared to do tonight, then please issue a positive declaration so that the real power of this, the generator, the grid tax, and the quality of life consequences can be fully and honestly studied.
Thank you very much.
My name is Jacob Rosen. I grew up at 10 Buckingham Place in Altapan, New Jersey. My sister for me. My said a lot. She said a lot of things that we feel in terms of how it feels now that we go back to our childhood home, hearing the humming in the backyard from the data center. She says a lot of the things that I was actually going to say. One thing that I really want to speak up about is at this point, I've come to about 5 meetings of this, and this is now the 4th time that I had to sit outside, and I couldn't actually hear anything that was being said in the meeting because at the end of the day, we have 90, 100 people who are coming to these meetings and want to participate in our civic duty of being able to represent ourselves with the town board. And at the end of the day, it's really upsetting that we're not able to actually participate and listen to what's going on in this room. I could be talking about and reading this letter. At the end of the day, I have no idea what happened during this meeting because I had to sit outside the entire time. And I know there are a lot of other people who have come here and had to leave throughout the meeting because they just weren't able to participate. So I'm going to cede the rest of my time, but thank you for listening. I think that that's something that's really important and needs to be said.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Chris Sweeney. I live in Pearl River, and I want to second the request that possibly for the next meeting it could be in the large room because it's only fair to people. We paid taxes for this beautiful new building, and we deserve to hear what's happening. So yes, please. And I know some of you on this board. I want to thank Mike Mandel and Bruce for asking so many direct questions. But right now, Orangetown is absolutely saturated with data centers. We have, I think it's 6 now. Does anybody know the correct answer on this? It's 5 or 6. I think the first big one was in the Psych Center. We are overly saturated with data centers. There is no talk of the cost to us, the local utility ratepayers. So there's currently no regulations to have the ultra-rich owners of these data centers pay more. So guess who it is? It's us again, the Orangetown ratepayer. My bill this month was $675. Who is me that your bill went through the roof? We are paying to support the ultra-rich data everywhere. And there's talk of that tonight. What can we expect? What in dollars can we expect our rates to go up even more? It's short-sighted. The AL will burst. Many economists have said that. And then what happens? Who buys up the 200,000 square feet in 5 years, in 10 years from now? I want to stay here. I want my kids to stay here. I can't buy a house and pay utility. I want them to stay here in Orangetown. That would be possible. So who's going to buy up these buildings, these giant buildings? Like past contentious enforces what the people here say is true. If members is going back 10 years, things that were applications for Anelitech, they actually were not. So that the board is investigating and if there are things that are true, because I'm sitting on this side with my back, they're back to me right now, they have everything to gain from it. we have everything to lose from it. And who's checking that what is put on applications and what wattage and all of these things are actually correct? And when there are violations, who enforces that? This is a genuine question. Like, who in the town will enforce if something, the noise level goes above what's beyond? Because that did happen in the past with us, with odor complaints. We need a moratorium on data centers and a pro-environment thinking in Orangetown. Because once this is built, there is no turning back. Construction is permanent. We have enough. Please, please reconsider from everyone. Thank you.
Ma'am.
Hi, my name is Sean Nath. I'm a lifelong NATH. Long Blauvelt native. The location of the center was the old Verizon at 2000 Corporate Drive, near and dear to my heart because that place was my first on the employment ladder back in 2012. Made a lot of friends, all those guys, Nate Saganek, Sam Kropp, Tom Zimmerman, all guys who grew up in the area, volunteer at the little firehouse. They all work in data now. You guys are right, there are a lot of data around here now. You got been there since 1992, right across side of the reservoir. You have Blue Hill. Blue Hill Data has been there since the 80s. You have High Velocity across the street from Corporate Drive, Berg, JP Morgan. The fact they're building these because this is a growing area of employment. And I don't think it is well motivated, but ill-advised NIMBYism is not going to create the jobs of the future. There's a lot of spurious claims here being made about AI bubbles popping. People said the same thing in the internet 90s. Paul Krugman wrote a famous on the New York Times about that. Totally. Anyway, claims here made, you'll for noticing this, but mostly from people with white, and a lot of accrued wisdom, no doubt. Yeah, but I could think of nothing tackier than pulling up the rungs on the employment ladder for the future generation. We all know how much challenge younger people. I did not interrupt anyone else. Extend to me the same courtesy. So I could think of nothing tackier than pulling up the rungs on the employment ladder in front of this upcoming generation. One of my buddies, 25, just got his first big boy job at High Velocity over in Orangeburg. His brother's an Orangetown cop. He's been living here his whole life. These are important jobs, people. They lead to actual careers. That's the material benefit. The guy I mentioned who I used to work with at Drive, work at the JP Morgan site now. Married, they all have kids, they go to SOCS, pay their taxes, and these places create jobs. Arguing about, marsh reeds, and I don't want to trace the concerns of the family living behind this data if they are actually hearing humming hard at night and have swamp flood going into their, that is fine, that should not be the case, but these places make jobs. And I just hope all the people here, I see passion on your faces, I hear it in your voices. It's encouraging to hear, but I want you people to be cognizant of the material benefits that this does have to implicate. So, mind.
Thanks for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm Jackie Drexler from Valley Cottage, former Palisadian. I have many concerns. I feel that this project is being done under segmentation, which is kind of illegal. This should never have approved in the first place. The zoning did not suffice. Now, this is crossing on the land bank property. So what we will having more wetlands destruction, habitat destruction, eagles nesting sites, noise, smell, particulate matter, and light pollution, all which affects the health and well-being for wildlife, Lake Pan, children, homeowners. These pollutions also affect physical health and can lead to heart disease and can affect mental health. This project will lead to increased electricity costs, and it is vile that this company has received IDA money without providing the number of jobs that they should be to be receiving IDA money or purchasing, say, for traffic within the town. Now, I am also going to talk a tiny bit here about bomb train data centers and what do they have in. So back in 2014 and 15, I sat down with Sheriff Falco and aided him about bomb. In 2015, right here in Orangetown, the county participated in intensive emergency training exercise called the Nightmare Scenario Drill with CSX. Bomb trains can have fires and explosions, and the fires and explosions cannot be put out with water. I am not sure what kind of battery this company will be using. I know diesel fuel on site. I know that there have been electrical fires also out with water. So I'm feeling that this data bank company needs to be paying for fire training and supplies so that if there's an incident and a big fire, that will be taken care of by the company and not by the local community resources. I'm also very concerned about the wetlands. I just have to go to this because they are one of the best defenses against climate change. So I'm so upset. I think that even though they may not be drawing water and they may not be discharging water, the fact is that the lake is very much at risk for an incident should there be a diesel leak or be if there's a leak and they have to use the specialized kind of equipment and foams that's into the lake. So not knowing exactly these batteries are that they may be using, also just need to up that the lithium fire out in California is to burn out, and 1,500 residents had to be evacuated because of the smoke and the pollution. So I'm just saying that it's bad enough already. Yes. Positive declaration and condition 14. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. My name is Rose. I'm a lifelong resident of Piermont, New York. I want to thank you for being here. I also want to say congratulations to the gentleman who said that his friends at JP Morgan are having children. I hope those children enjoy growing up in a place that doesn't have any nature left in it if we let this stuff go on. Because like another person said, the destruction is permanent. This is our home. I want to also address the environmental consultant, I believe that's your role, and request that you guys please investigate the effect that the evergreens, the green giants, will have to the wetlands. So they're proposing that the wetlands be fortified, planted with native species, supported, and whatnot, but they're not explaining how they're going to maintain this. They're not explaining how the green giants are going to affect those plants. Green giants take up a lot of water. They require a lot of pruning. The deer eat them. They won't block the decibels if they're eaten from the height of a deer. So we really need you guys to provide more evidence on how to maintain and protect wetlands. The work that you're doing to be completely negated by the greens that you plant. They crowd out native species, and you need to provide evidence on how construction is not going to injure any currently unendangered species. You said that there are endangered that are being threatened. What say that the current species will become threatened? You need to do research. You need to request the search. It's really, really, really important. Thank you.
Okay, Penny Rosen, 10 Buckingham Place, Old New Jersey. Ms. Penny Rosen, I live at Buckingham Place, Old Japan, New Jersey, directly on the border of the bank property. My husband submitted a formal letter for tonight's record. I'm here to speak about something similar, a promised data bank made to the board to get Phase 1 approved, act that they are now walk away from it. When Phase 1 was approved, this board added condition 14, says in plain English, Phase 2, as formally illustrated, cannot be constructed. You can call it whatever you like. That condition was the price of the 2022 ZBA variances. Data Bank accepted it. They built Phase 1. They are operating today, and now they are back asking the board to forget that the condition exists. Their workaround is a parking exhibit claiming 954 land banked spaces fit on the site, but your own building department and your own consultant, AKRF, have already shown it doesn't hold up. Some of those spaces are drawn on top of diesel generator yards. Others are drawn inside the 100-foot buffer that the zoning code says cannot be touched. The buffer of trees, that is the only thing that is standing between this industrial facility and our backyards. Clearing that buffer to manufacture parking spaces on paper, eliminate the only natural screening protecting our neighborhood. They're not a parking plan. This a compliance exhibit trying to make a broken promise look like it has been kept. Notably, Data Bank fails to answer the following question. positioned by the staff. Has O&R or NYISO provide a written assessment of how the road affects outage frequency of stability for surrounding neighborhoods? Completely ignores Databank merely relies on Orange and Rockland's meaningless response that it will provide electricity to Databank. Such an evasive answer must be outrightly rejected by this board. I also want the board, as has been mentioned about the freshwater wetlands application, it's incomplete. Databank's plan permanently destroys almost an acre of protected wetlands and clears 1.4 acres of wetland buffer right next to Lake Tapan, the drinking water supply for hundreds of thousands of people in Rockland County and northern New Jersey, including my family. There is no mitigation plan. NYSDEC coordination. Okay, ask the board to deny this application.
Good evening, everyone. It's Chris Kabiowski. Good to see everyone again, or not good to see everyone. Oh, yeah, Kieliowski. I live at Buckingham Court, adjacent to this facility. I had 11, but I just comments made in a meeting. The recent Rock ML letter, that was not approved by the board. I think the attorney emphasized that, but it was the same tone as all these letters. The final statement said that they do not have zoning. That the tone was the same, everything else was, nothing changed. So I think it was taken out of context. There was a fire at a data center in Oregon. It was a UPS battery storage room. It burned for 2 days. Also, I mean, you know, I'm not against data centers, but they need to be built sustainably in areas where that are sustainable. It doesn't make sense that right next to the lake. And again, this data center getting $60 million, approximately $60 million in county tax funds. And we know from research done, there's research that infrastructure has gone in to support the power demand. They can meet, but we're paying for those in delivery rates. Look at your delivery rates for this last year and how much they've gone up. Multiply that by how many O&R customers. Just Rockland, I know is 100,000 people, but I think in total there's 300,000 Rockland O&R customers in the region. Do the math. If my rate went up my bill went up $5 a month. You know, that doesn't sound like an economic benefit or something that makes economic sense for our region. I agree, you know, it's great that they have jobs like that gentleman spoke, and also the technology is changing. DeepSeek AI, Chinese AI company, completely devalued the market last year where they realized they might not need the amount of infrastructure that's needed for these data centers. You know, years ago, a computer filled up a room, went to a desk. It's in my hand now, on my wrist. So I just wanted to say that you know, you're planning not for the elections, not for this year. You're planning for the community 40, 50 years from now. These data centers are evolving like every other industry, and you have to plan ahead. You know, they need to honor Condition 14. I'm not sure why they're sitting here at the table. And, you know, just want to make sure I don't miss anything. You know, regardless of what changes Databank proposes tonight or in future submissions, this application needs to end. The board tonight, it's, you know, not tabled, not continued. It's a full EI. We all know that, and multiple people have said. First bill has been a full EI. It's very clear. We're not going to. An appellate judge, retired appellate judge, said, "Why are they even looking at this application?"
Hi, thank you for taking the time to listen to us all tonight. My name is John Savage. I live at 130 Crescent Road in Piermont. I think a lot of people have said a number of things on both sides about the merits of this particular project, one way or the other. But I am really here tonight to second the calls for really taking a close look at the land banking, right? Those of us who are, you know, starting to get a little white in there are old enough to remember there was, in fact, .com boom. That will burst. The entire the entire economy oriented And again, just the last few years since COVID, we see what happened to the major tech corridors in the world, whether that's in New York, whether that's in San Francisco, wherever that is, right? This stuff is always moving around. These are bubbles that burst. And we need to admit that there is a fairly significant, is it more than 50%? Maybe not, but a significant chance that this building will not, for the life of the building, serve the purpose for which it is being built. And we need, as a community, to be able to sell that building to somebody else and let them use it for another purpose. And if it doesn't have parking, they can't do that. Yeah, and I say that as a guy who works in IT. It's just the way it works. It would be irresponsible to not include provisions to let the land be repurposed, right? There was something else I wanted to say. I have no idea what it is. It's very late tonight, so I just want to say, again, thank you all for being here and listening to us.
Matthew Heinlein, Heinlein, 38, Heinlein, 38 Corrigan Way, Old Tappan. This proposal has the same concerns as before, and if anything, the case against it has only been clearer with more local precedents to reject the proposal. A few weeks ago in New Brunswick, New Jersey, a much smaller data center was rejected after public opposition over energy use, environmental impact, and rising electricity costs. The same issues we're discussing here tonight. Project rejected. And that project wasn't on wetlands or next to critical drinking water source. This one is. So this is not a fringe argument. It's happening all over the country. Again, we've discussed in the past the economic case also does not hold up. Nearly $60 million in tax exemptions from the Rockland County IDA, which will take roughly 3 decades to recoup in tax revenue per Databank's own estimates as cited in the AKRF review. That is a bad deal. The project asks the community to take on long-term costs, financial, environmental, and quality of life while getting very little in return. Why would you put this here? Updated plans also reinforce how this project has been approached. This is a 24/7 industrial operation with generators and constant activity. Key infrastructure, including the generators, have been reoriented towards nearby neighborhoods that have already raised concerns about noise. That is not what a good neighbor looks like. And the same lack of seriousness shows up in the site planning. The so-called land bank parking doesn't resemble any viable commercial layout. You can almost picture it, these lawyers and engineers taking the feedback back to Databank that they really tried their best, but unfortunately they couldn't just totally ignore the deal that was made to land bank parking spaces. Then moving some boxes or parking spaces around on a screen and saying, there, we did it. That is not planning. That is a paper exercise. Have you ever seen an office or a commercial site designed with this type of land bank proposal? Of course not. There's a bigger issue, precedent. First, the precedent the board is literally stating in 2020 as a condition of building phase 1, phase 2 cannot be constructed. Messages the board and Databank send going back on this condition, entertaining this. Second, being first here is not an advantage, it's a risk. Approving of this scale now makes Orange test case, and this is not a project you want to experiment with. Once it's built, it's permanent, and we don't know where technology is going. Major companies are already pushing computing and AI into mobile devices, reliance on centralized data. When the future is uncertain, responsible planning means being cautious. Just know what an AI future looks like. This project should be at an absolute minimum. It requires a environmental impact statement. And I'll end the way I did last time, asking a genuine question of the board. Why would you project? Thanks.
Hello, my name is Janice Young from 20 Laddock Street, Piermont. This is my first meeting for this particular focus, and I just wanted to say something. I obviously am against it. I think there needs to be a full environmental review. There has to be a positive declaration. Excuse me, if you live near it, I'd be very nervous. I was just looking online at different things. The Lincoln Institute of Land Policy said even a small data center can place an immense concentrated burden on local infrastructure and natural resources. University of California, Riverside, it said health impacts from pollution associated with California's computer processing center, tripled from 2019 to 2023, and could rise by another 72% by 2028. Harvard says these massive facilities not only strain already stressed power grids, but also create air pollution, including that fine particulate matter, resulting in significant respiratory-related health consequences that are estimated to cost up to $20 billion per year in the U.S. by 2028. In 2023, all data centers guzzled around 1.4 billion gallons of water at the University of Alabama. And we put this next to water. That's almost funny if it weren't so, right? And wetland and homes. And if you're young, and by the way, I say for the record, I don't like isms. I don't like ad hominem attacks. If people have gray hair, they might have had experience. But one thing about getting a job young, this data center you want to put up, and there's lots of centers around, that are going to take a lot of your jobs if you've been watching the news, right? So that's short-term thinking. That's short-term thinking. And if you want your children and such, I don't want them breathing this air. Have his children when he has, want them healthy. I don't want them having to breathe that air or drink that water. Thank you very much.
My name is Qi Fan. Qi first name, Qi Fan, 34 Corrigan Way, Ottaban. So for more than 10 years, my family and neighbors have been living with the noise from Bloomberg data center generators. This is not occasional. The generators run every other Thursday and once a month on Saturday, starting at 7 a.m. for 6 to 7 hours nonstop. So it's a deep humming sound, industrial noise that reaches inside our homes and affect our daily lives. We have filed complaint over the years. When testing was finally conducted from town building department, it was scheduled on Tuesday, when the generator was not even running on Tuesday. I already communicated many times. It's running on Thursday and Saturday, but the building department came on Tuesday to testing it. So of course, the result was no issue found. That doesn't reflect reality. Now, DataBank is proposing a new facility next to Bloomberg with eight, we all can see that, 8 additional generator planned directly facing to our neighbors. So I'm glad to see the board start noticing that, start to pay attention to the noise. And when the consultant to say 75 decibel from the generator, let me tell you what 75 decibel sounds like. A vacuum machine, a vacuum cleaner next to you. Think about, that's what we have been living with Bloomberg's noise for 10 years. 6 to 7 hours, nonstop, vacuum cleaner next to you. On board to consider that impact to the neighbors. So I'm asking the board to take the responsible approach before approving the project. Because once this is approved, the impact on our community will be present. This is your opportunity to address the long-standing issue, not to expand it. Please take this seriously and act before it's too late. Please test again of the Bloomberg's noise on Thursday or Saturday. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Peter Metzler. I did send a Metzler. I did send a letter in. I just had a few more comments. My understanding that Viola as well as ONRAC are public utilities. So I'd ask this board in kind of public role to get out to them and get for a more specific answer to the question of will our rate go up because of this increased use of it? Does that make sense? Okay, so, and it was hard to hear in the back a lot of what was going on. I think I heard these folks up here said that there will be no increase in water and no increase in electrical use. And if I correctly, I would also ask the public utilities who are supplying the water and supplying the energy to corroborate that. So, and then the last comment is in terms of NIMBYism, we are no longer in an era where we are in my backyard. Everyone's backyard is all of our backyard, whether it's in Orangetown, Piermont, Utah, California, Texas. We are all in this together. And so I'd really hope that we can think about the collective common green that we all share and we all must preserve. Thank you so much for doing this work. Thank you. Oh.
Jim Coffey, 139 Hunt Road. Thank you, board, for listening to me, Mr. Chairman, and I say no to Phase 2. That's it.
Hi, I'm Neve O'Hara, apostrophe H-A-R-A, and I live in Tapan. I'm a homeowner, I'm an ecologist, and I also get notices from Veolia about high PFAS levels, or forever chemicals that are our water supply, and data are known to be a producer of PFAS. So the folks here at DataBank was talking about how they are going to deal with their contaminants. They're going to go into their storm drainage, and that's then going to go into the ground, which is right next to Lake Tapan. So I think that we should see an assessment of PFAS levels and how that to impact the drinking water for all of us. Thanks. Actually, I have a little bit more time. Could I just also, it seems like we should see Phase 1 go live before we work on Phase 2, right? Because they haven't actually gone live with Phase 1. Shouldn't we maybe see what the impact will be there before we okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Denise Hoffman from New Jersey. I'd like to say, I'm Denise Hoffman from Alpine, New Jersey. I would just like to say that you haven't been transparent. There's no science, facts, there's no numbers. Not giving number. There's an indirect use of water. Okay, it could be up to 1 million gallons a year. What about the indirect of the energy that it's with electricity? That's going to be on the power grid. It just transverses, relocates. Okay, so you're explaining it to go one way, but it really indirectly goes another, and it will have direct impact on the electrical grid. Increase your electrical bills. Increase electricity. That's a fact. So give the numbers. Do the per do the electricity per megahertz. You're not giving any facts. It's all vague here. You're very vague. Okay. Give the public that. Okay. But so you're going to make your answer on vague, gray answers. That's how you're going to make your decision. Sad. Signs.
Hello, my name is Mike Perry. Last name R-I-E-T-T. Real quick, I was on the Rockland County Planning Board when this came before both Phase 1 and Phase 2 came before the board. We voted them both down. But I remember it was our GML that recommended land banking the parking. And the intent of that GML was that if you land banked the parking, you couldn't build Phase 2. So just so you know, that's what it was. Also, in terms of the pilot that's associated with this program, just everyone should know that we looked into this a bit, and Data Bank gave Ed Day about $4,500 in donations. About a month later, they approved a $58 million pilot. Ed brags about digging us out of $100-something million deficit, $58 million for a project that would have been built anyway. The corporations that run these things, like CoreWeave, who's involved with this project, they are making so much money off these things, and they're having a hard time situating them. This project would have been built anyway without a single dollar of tax incentive. And because I assume because they gave them $4,500, they got a $58 million. These are multi-billion-dollar corporations. And the other thing is, I know other donations were made to other committees, other political committees in the county by CoreWeave and other entities associated with this data center. So I think you should take a look at those donations, where they went, and try to parse out, is that really what's driving any approval of this expansion? Thank you.
My name is Patches Magaro, Patches Magarro. I live in Old Tappan, New Jersey. Thank you to all the volunteers who are sitting through these meetings over and over again. We appreciate your service. And in summary, my thoughts about this project that I implore the board to consider is that this isn't the only place a data center can be built. Why roll the dice building it on the precipice of a drinking water reservation? So I ask the board to please vote no on this project and data bank their spot. Thank you.
Hey, Julie Quinn. I'm a Blauvelt resident and work in this community as well. I feel like a lot of great points have already been made. It is a moral issue. This is sweeping. I've been in education for about 10 years, and I've seen students are, you ask an opinion question and students are Googling their opinion. Like, the erasure is happening at the expense of this technology. And I know that we're not here to arbitrate that. That's not within our role as a town or as a nation. We really want to lead and continue building structure for something that's kind of undermining our intelligence as people. I just like we're, in addition to the drinking water issue, I can appreciate the jobs and I totally understand that, but we don't need to give more land to a corporate institution. We should make it easier for homeowners and people in this community to have small businesses. Last meeting I was here, there was a long arbitration about a wine bar and parking and all this stuff, and I'd rather see that with more community members being able to, I just want to see people retained in this community, and I feel like this kind of moves in the opposite direction. So thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Melissa Hoffman. My family's from Alpine, New Jersey. My mom just spoke earlier. I'm with Food and Water Watch. We're an organization fighting across the country to protect our food, water, and climate. And we're opposed to this data center. And I just want you to notice how many people have been in this room for this meeting and the past meetings opposed to this data center. Just earlier, we had a press conference right in the hallway where groups opposed talked about how this data center is going to raise our utility bills. It's going to cause devastating environmental impacts. These data centers are popping up all across the country, and there's a reason why communities are opposed to them and coming out in hundreds at these planning board meetings to stop them. They're devastating to our utility bills. We can't afford utility bills anymore. They're devastating to the environment, our air. There's so many reasons why. I just want you to notice how much opposition there is. And secondly, I want to mention that there's not just opposition at the local level. At the state level, our legislators introduced a moratorium on data centers to stop data centers until we have regulations in place to make sure that they aren't going to cause devastating environmental impacts and ensure that the energy isn't going to take from energy that homes and people in the use. We're also, just today, Congress introduced a data center moratorium at the full to stop these data centers. We need strong regulations in place before anything like this is ever considered. So please notice how many people are out here giving their time to show how important it is that we stop this issue. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lily Chapin. I submitted accidentally 2 letters that basically said the same thing. I heard you say my name twice, so I'll keep it brief. I just want to say I grew up in this county. I grew up in Piermont. I represent other members of my family tonight who wanted to be here. My dad, I told him there was nowhere to sit, so he should go home. But I grew up under the shadow of the Hudson River being polluted. I remember when Hudson River was so polluted that people made jokes about if you ate a fish in there, you know, you'd have heads or something. The Clearwater Riverkeeper cleaned up all the pollution that came down the river because it was not thinking ahead about the ramifications of putting things on waterways, right? So we were forefront of doing that work. I mean, there was Pete Seeger at the end of the Piermont Pier singing banjo as children from the William O'Shea Elementary went out onto that boat and looked fish. I mean, we're teaching children to protect the environment here. That's what we're doing for the kids. So let's just lead people, right? And let's just say this. Let's not risk it. Let's just let somebody else make that mistake first and not be the county that, oops, we put our waterway by accident, right? Nobody's doing this on purpose, trying to do the right thing, but let's try to be cautious. and wait and see what. So I vote no. Thank you.
Hello, I'm John DiCrescenzo, and I live in Village. And, oh, it's very long. DECRESCENZO. Are my 3 minutes up with that? Okay. Yeah, so I'm so opposed to this for all the reasons that have been discussed tonight. And I do believe that in the first place, it ought never to have been approved. There should have been a positive deck. And actually, even if there was, it should not have been approved. It has no purpose being there except, gee, data bank, I guess they're banking on data. And, you know, that bubble probably will burst at some point and we'll be left with the wreckage. I do believe that moratoriums are in order here, and data bank is only interested in making money. And unfortunately, that's not what most of us in Rockland County are interested in. We're interested in protecting our environment, and protecting our children, and protecting the land and the water and the air. We are not first people here. We are people's land to begin with, and we cannot continue in this destruction. Thank you.
Good evening. Melody Fiore, 99 Hunt Road. I'm sure everybody knows me. I've been to all the meetings since Phase 1. I am the landowner of the property that abuts Data Bank. I had written something. I really don't think I'm going to read it. There were a lot of good points made this evening. I don't approve of this second phase. Everything that was said about the land banking and no-go with Phase 2 is absolutely true. I was at every single meeting. I pleaded, I begged with all of you. I talked about the environmental dangers of this center. I live there, I see it. I do want to thank Dink, though, for turning off the lights, roof, that I did notice. It was illuminated like you couldn't believe it was. I deal with a lot. I have to see that building every day. Not only that, I have the emergency exit that is 600 feet lining my property line. All the trees that were planted there, unfortunately, have died and have been eaten by the deer. They're not maintained. You have to maintain foliage if you're going to have it there. Now that there was the problem, they're redoing that emergency road again. I feel like I'm being exposed to the dirt and the smell and the noise. It's been years. It's horrible living there. It really is. And the ecosystem, the animals, and the eagles are not with a nest, but I do see them there along the lake. This is Orangeburg. I lived in Orangeburg. For years, my family has lived there. I am begging you, as Orangetown, we've put in, support us. The taxes are going up. I don't want to talk wetlands. We've talked about it enough. I just think you should do the right thing and respect us. We have Tiva and Maya right on road. We have Vietnam vets. Most of us are in our 70s. Let me tell you, they can't all come out here. But they've lived here. They've been established for as long as my family has owned that property. And then you put this data center there. I just want to thank you for listening and do the right thing by us.
Okay, I want to just let everybody know there was a couple of issues that were brought up, and I want to correct them. Talking about storages, and I asked them before we went into the public about them, there will be no lithium storage on the property. So there was a lot of concern about fires, 4 days to put, the batteries will not be on this property. So I just want to let that, everybody know that, all right? Okay, you got a lot of work in front of you.
Well, can I just comment briefly? 'Cause I know we've been here a while.
Of course.
So, this is been a few times now, and I've heard a lot of the same comments, and heard a lot of the same comments from folks who are in the town, who are not, and outside of the jurisdiction. But that being said, we've heard a lot of comments. We heard them we're hearing them again now for phase 2. This problem, it's not for us, but it's really an issue. This board, this town is already precedent for this facility. Okay, we have one right next door with to phase 1. That's a precedent right now that's been set, okay, by this board and with respect to the data center in this particular. We also heard things about pilots, which they pay full taxes by, okay, with respect to. The other thing I heard about is rural compass issues. I heard about a lot of misinformation about economic bubbles, all of which, and this board's fully aware, because this is not your role to assess economic bubbles, not your role to assess morality. This is a board, this is a land approval process, and that's what it is. We've come here, and another thing that's misconstrued.
Excuse me.
We sat here, and everyone sat here up front, didn't interrupt this person that spoke, so I expect the same. We sat here and listened to everyone with comment. Misinformation, stated board, again, you stated, Mr. Chairman, we're not the best facility. Heard a lot of comments built to best about the why. We're not drawing from the we're not doing any of that testimony that this is system. The other thing they talk about the county mail, I heard council talk about that, which I find humorous in 30 years of plan use law. I heard two people, well, the county never looked at this. Well, the County of Rockland Planning Department has the above item. The first member of county planning disapproved this. The second, so don't tell me that, I guess they sat at the planning board, went through it and said, well, you know what, the county never looked at this. They did. They drew a letter. So, again, misinformation, not accurate. The other thing about this resolution, so back in 2023, when this board approved it, condition 14 was a condition from the county. There were a couple of overrides that were contained in that resolution with respect to the land banking as to landscaping, the parking and phases. I suggest all of you go back and read that because it's been very selective what I've heard tonight. Because in the resolution, nowhere does it states that phase 2 is dead. It says that project contemplated back then, 146,000 feet, was not going to work. It did include data bank from coming back. It specifically said in a resolution that you have to come back to the planning board for phase. It's in there. So anyone to say contrary to that, and I should board go back and read that resolution. It's your resolution, and it doesn't say anywhere that phase 2 is dead. Do it. It does not say that. So we have something we have to do. We will provide you with information. I know there's information AKRF requests. We couldn't provide them because again, there's a lead time. We'll get you the information that's requested, but I just understand this is not about morality, not about economics. This is a simple land use process. Precedent's been set, and we hope to follow it because again, not a position, but it's also this standing to in the law in terms of who can contest these projects. Submit to this board that, just mind you, that this process, we went through it in phase 1. We're doing exactly the same thing we're doing phase 2. So again, the board's been at this a long time, and I just wanted to be reminded of that. Thank you. We'll see.
Hey, can one thing too?
Excuse me. We're running a meeting.
Just want to thank you, Lauren, for some clarifications there on the best battery and several other items. For the people of the public here, I think there's still a lot of misconception, and there's some awareness and some training, maybe folks, and just understanding what it is that we actually. I understand I can appreciate the passion that the people for the community, but I want to get that. I want to get straight. I want there to be more of an education here. Also, want them to understand that hey, data banks here. We want to be a good neighbor. We want to be here for term. We're not. We don't be here for a bit and be gone. We want to be. We want to be supportive. I just want to correct some of the misconceptions that were said tonight.
Okay. And also mention, just to reiterate, like the benefit, what public benefit is data provided? I mentioned the Little League, but Data Bank has supported the Little League with respect to things that need to be done on site. So I know that issue came up there in phase 1. I know it's not relevant for your purposes with this board, but I heard a comment tonight, oh, what's the public benefit? Again, there's no public benefit that's required for this board. But again, Data Bank has done stuff for the Little League. Again, it's relevant for the approvals process, but I just wanted you to know that it's done for the Little League.
Okay, thank you. Excuse me, we're still running the meeting. Folk can go outside. Are you asking for?
Yes, we are, Mr. Chair. Deputy Chair, you're the chair.
I was waiting for you to for it.
Yes, we're going to ask for a continuing, allow our team to provide you information that's been requested by your consultants.
Okay,
And just
Public information, go ahead.
to that point, in terms of dates, Audrey, do you have any date in terms of when we have to get our submission by, I guess, for the next meeting? Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. To let everybody know exactly what's going on, the applicant has asked for a continuation. This board is not doing anything tonight other than waiting for them to come back with more information. So nothing will be resolved tonight, other than they will come back at another time. As to when, we don't know, okay? But that's where we are right now. Everybody will be notified when they come, okay? Thank you much, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay, if everybody could do me a favor, please go outside in the hallway. We have some more work to do, and it's getting late, and I know we want to get everything else done. Ma'am? We would never notified. We're gonna have, well, we'll have to see if there's in it. They're gonna review it. There's enough in it that.
I gotta find out if I can end them.
Yeah.
I haven't seen you in so long. I just gotta. Who? Him? Oh.
All right, folks, please do me a favor. Please go outside. Guys, please, go out and talk. We have more business to do. We can't get it done when there's a lot of... Thank you. Somebody left their sweater or whatever, scarf.
Twins, the sisters.
It might clash, I might not look good. Good night. Yeah. No.
Okay, great.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, they were, I think they were twins, very close to being sisters.
Okay, the only thing we have is just the minute. So,
What's the date of the minutes?
March 11th?
Okay, motion to approve the minutes from March 11th, 2026 meeting.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye,
Aye.
opposed, none.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Actually, Mr. Chairman, if I
Oh.
can just bring up something else. It came up several times in just sitting here. There were a lot of people here today. There's no doubt the next time this is on.
Next time we'll go in the other room.
Right.
Okay, I
Yeah.
think you as chairman and the board can definitely suggest that, and then we'll make sure it happens.
Yeah,
I think that's
there was no
appropriate.
way
Yeah,
to
today I
do
don't
it
think
tonight.
it's
Because to
possible.
get in there and set the whole thing up, there's just no way of doing it.
But so
That's why I
for-
said we stay here.
But for the next one,
But for
you're
the next one,
requesting
we
that we go to
definitely-
town? Okay.
And if we feel that there's another application that comes in that does have a lot of public information, go over there. Even if we don't fill the room up, we can go over there. Mr. Oliver? Yes, sir. Will you check on Thursdays and Saturdays if Bloomberg is running the generators?
Yeah, Mike, we have
The woman
very
told me
nice
they're
piece of
running it
machinery
tomorrow.
just specifically for sound, and Mike went out and did it, so I can check with him and find out what day he went in. But, he
Okay,
was pretty
she said
thorough.
Thursdays and Saturdays, and they run it for 8 hours,
Check
which
into it,
I don't
sure.
think is the case.
Actually, myself, I'm just curious, I'd like to go out there and hear what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Hey, Rick, I got, meeting's over?
Oh, yeah, we did.
I got a second. Okay, can we turn the filming off?